This is all about your accomplishments, and I am the lucky person that gets to describe it. And I'm going to start with some very striking data, and then how it amazes me and how I've been thinking about what it means and what are the lessons learned. And that striking data falls in the category of growth of faculty. So here's some data where you are looking at WashU medicine in the red bars and the national, as reported by the AAMC. And you see that from 2016 to 2022, WashU medicine was growing at 4.5% compound annual growth rate compared to the national average 1.3%, 4 times the national average. And that applied to both the basic science departments and the clinical departments. We could spend all night talking about this data. How does that happen? Big institutions on the East Coast and the West Coast. We're right here in the middle of the country. This is what that looks like when you, and this is just the increase in number of faculty, 2017 to 2023, doubled. It's a little more on the clinical mission than it is on the research mission, but it's interesting to see how much the research mission has grown. This is some data on underrepresented in medicine and how we've grown. And from 2017, you can see we've gone from 5.5% of our faculty to 7.8% of our faculty. But more striking, if you look at the data compared to the AAMC, WashU medicine is growing its underrepresented population of faculty at 2 to 4 times the national average. In the middle of the country. And then here's some metrics for success in career advancement of women. In the top left, the percent increase in rank in the last 7, 8 years. And this is, I would argue, this is what we're looking at. How do women get to the top of the organization? Data on the top right show you increased women in endowed professorships. And then down below, you see women in leadership positions, division chiefs and vice chairs, and essentially a doubling. And what is also apparent in this data is that our departments have increased the number of division chiefs and vice chairs, and I consider that to be a real accomplishment from an execution point of view, because this means we have more leaders. This means we have more people who are having the experience of leadership and management, and I believe that that's a very important part of what we do and how we continue to be a place that evolves in having a fantastic faculty and a fantastic environment. So how does this, I mean, when I started in this job in 2016, everybody came to me, well, we can't keep faculty, we can't recruit faculty. That is not the picture of what has happened here over the last 7 or 8 years. And as I was thinking about all this data and comparing to the national data, I actually asked this question: what makes us special? And I know all of you are going to have an idea of what this is. Here's what came to me. We come together. We come together on a mission. We think of ourselves as a team. We have brilliant people here. We have people who are purpose-driven. And we have this feeling that you don't get at institutions on the East Coast or the West Coast, that we are building our community all the time. And I like building our community better than collaboration. Everybody here has positive experiences in collaboration and talks about that. But building community is a little different than collaborating, because it means you may actually be working with others and building them and making them a part of our family, even if you aren't collaborating with them. And that's very special. And I believe it also is that we share a set of core values. And those core values that I've described before are what I have seen here when I was here in my first 15 years. High standards of excellence, reverence for the scientific basis of medicine. So very important. Inspiring and nurturing of talent, effective and stable strategies for financial support of research. That's a really big one that many of us don't realize how special that is here at WashU. Culture of community and diversity and commitment to clinical service and our role as a safety net provider. We never veer from that. And what is the paradigm for our success? And I love this concept of the virtuous cycle of academic medicine, because everybody has a part of the team in this. Every talented person who is in our environment is part of this team. Investment of clinical practice and health system income in the academic enterprise leads to increased research productivity, technology transfer, leverage to external support, investment in education and training. This all leads to improved stature and visibility for clinical education and research enterprises and for the university as a whole. And this then leads back to increased patient referrals, clinical faculty quality, and overall success for the clinical enterprise. Everybody has an important role in the team, in the mission. That is what we do in our, as WashU Medicine. What are the things that would not have happened if we did not have this special sauce? And I'm just going to give you one example, but I'm sure each of you has lived many examples. In the last 7 years, we recruited 7 outstanding scientists. As a team, we recruited these scientists from other institutions. And when we began the BJC Investigator Search, the idea was we would bring some more great scientists to be part of our community. This was a team effort, and we all engaged in it. At the very top of the organization, the department heads, our professors. We had a search committee of 45 people, and we're actually going to continue on this in the next several years. How do we know that we're optimally leveraging the virtuous cycle of academic medicine? What are the things and there are many, and you all can describe many of them. I'm just going to talk about 2 things that have struck me in the last few months. And I describe them: research initiatives that can profoundly improve clinical practice and health outcomes. Because in the end, that's what we believe research does for us. From the very most basic to the very most applied, in our minds, this is an expression of how we improve our society. Here's an example that just came out in December, led by Ali Javaheri and from the Division of Cardiology in the Department of Medicine, and Carmen Burgum from the Department of Radiation Oncology, in which they make the case in mouse models and from human data that radiation therapy can be used to improve cardiac contractility and potentially treat heart failure. This has to go through clinical trials. This is a massive collaboration. You see all the people from different departments at this medical school. This has a chance to change clinical outcomes and it's all about the secret sauce of WashU. And then this came across, I've seen it lots of times, but it came across to me in a way when it was presented recently by Bettina Drake and Lannis Hall, who have worked under the leadership of Graham Colditz, Nice Gain Professor and Chief of the Division of Public Health Sciences. And in this group, and I give enormous credit to Graham and Tim Eberlein for long ago investing resources in implementing programs for prevention of cancer. And here's some data from what that has meant for breast cancer in the city of St. Louis. And here's some data for what that has meant for the incidence of colorectal cancer in the state of Missouri. On the left, you could see the 31 counties that, based on 95% confidence intervals, had high risk for high incidence of colorectal cancer. Their prevention strategies over the last 4 years have reduced that from 31 counties to 4 of the original counties. Now 7 have cropped up in the meanwhile, and they will go to work now on those counties with their efforts. This is amazing outcome. But with all of that, with all of those really positive things happening here, we are not satisfied. We want to have an even better climate, an even better culture. We want to be an ever more attractive place for all of our faculty and trainees. And I'm really grateful to Renee and Ben and Dineo for leading the charge on our EF Task Force for Climate and Culture. As you know, they've concluded with a set of recommendations, and then we are going to implement, to getting into even more detail with the next version of this task force to improve on what we do here. So this is really, this that I'm just showing you is exemplary of what is the biggest story. The biggest story is this is a place where we are relentless about improving. We all have this common restiveness. We don't want to rest. We want to keep doing important things. And that, to me, is what is so spectacular about this place. What are the other big stories this year? We have 2 new department heads. Pam Woodard took over as head of Department of Radiology, and Ting Wang as our head of Department of Genetics, 2 really great products of our community. We have new leadership in innovation and commercialization. Ron Dahl took over the permanent director of the Center for Drug Discovery, and Shri Bhagwat took over our new Needleman Program for Innovation of Commercialization. Amy Bantle came on in medical marketing and communications. Steve Menerick took on the permanent position as Associate Dean for our DBAS, and Will Arvin has become the permanent Vice Chancellor for Medical Advancement, and all of these people are already doing great work here. This year we named a new Danforth Scholar, Julie Schwartz from the Department of Radiation Oncology. This is a program where the school committed $40 million for recruitment and retention of outstanding physician scientists in the clinical departments to be a complementary program to the BJC Investigator that is dedicated to the preclinical departments. And then we are building for the future. And I didn't time this so well. We did the Neuroscience Research building opening last week. We're looking at the Ambulatory Cancer Center opening later this year. The vertical expansion of the BJCIH will also be completed at the end of this year, and then in 2025, the Queenie Tower replacement. I'll just point out to many of you who don't realize this, between the Neuroscience Research Building and the BJC IH vertical expansion, we are increasing research space on the campus by 40%. We're going from 1 million square feet of lab space to 1.4 million. There's very few places in this world that have made that kind of investment, that kind of very serious investment in research. And in addition, the other building projects here are giving us the much needed clinical expansion that we need to continue to do the things we're doing. And when we talk about this Neuroscience Research Building, we're talking about something that's really a big time commitment to research. And for many of you who were there last week, for those who weren't, I'm just going to show you the video.
We will never fully understand ourselves until we understand how our minds work and how our brains work, because those are questions that are at the core of who we are.
And so the neurosciences is the scientific approach to this question of what makes us human.
And hopefully, by understanding the brain, we can really develop better treatments for diseases of the brain.
In the current era, science has become very complex, and the individual human being solving a complex problem alone is not the common model today. Today, it is teams of investigators working collaboratively that is much more likely to yield big breakthroughs and to drive things forward.
So I've been at Washington University for almost 25 years, and what has kept me here is the unique culture of collaboration. And that's why I'm so excited about the new Neuroscience Research Building.
Well, the new building is extremely exciting from a number of perspectives. We're moving in with members of the WashU neuroscience community across different departments. The real power is having people with different perspectives working on a similar topic. That is where you get real scientific power.
One major collaborative effort we have is in the area of steroids that occur in the brain. WashU is the top institution in the country at neurosteroid work. These researchers are going to be able to work together in the same place, figuring out how these discoveries are going to turn into new treatments.
One really exciting finding we've had is that we can take cells from people who have Alzheimer's disease and we can make them into the cells we find in the brain. And we can then use those cells to see that certain drugs that are already in the clinics for treating depression and other psychiatric illnesses may be able to correct those cells and make them look healthy again.
One big area that is in real need for discovery and new therapies and ultimately cures are brain cancer. So we've put together a brain tumor center. It's a partnership across multiple departments, and that's a combination of taking care of that patient population now, but also looking in the lab to find new therapies that we can then translate to the clinic.
If you ask us what are we planning to do, Washington University School of Medicine wants to change the world. We want to change the world in fundamental ways that alter our understanding, create fresh insights, and enable people to live better and more fulfilling lives.
As we moved, now it's 93 laboratories into the Neuroscience Research Building, this has opened up space on the rest of the campus. And we, for those of you who haven't heard me say this, we have worked with every department head on the backfilling of that space. And up until a few weeks ago, everybody was happy with the space that we were planning. And of course, it goes on, and it was wonderful to celebrate the opening of this new building. So what's going on in education? And we've had a really great few years under the leadership of Eva Agard and many of you who are here today. We, in the midst of a pandemic, modernized the curriculum of the medical school for the first time in over 20 years. We were actually fully accredited for 8 years by LCME. They marveled at what happened here in the middle of the pandemic and with a modernization of curriculum and probably fewer citations than almost any LCME endodontal investigation. And then we've made real progress with our commitment. I think many of you know that we committed $100 million from our operating income over a 10-year period to more scholarships and to what was needed for curriculum modernization. And one of the outcomes of this is we have many more students who are on scholarship. This didn't come from any metrics. This was me doing my back of the envelope during match day. And this is nothing new. This is a place that puts medical students into the best training programs across the country for many years. This is some data about our yield. And if you look on the left, what you're seeing in the red is what's called yield percent. In the dotted gray line, the number of interviews needed to land candidates. And you can see that was going in the wrong direction. And we've managed to reverse that. The lightly shaded was when we reduced the class during the 2 years in which we were transitioning to the new curriculum. And on the right, you can see what we've done with attracting underrepresented and first-generation students. This is some data that just shows us some of the outcomes of the new curriculum and how it compares in performance nationally. Very encouraging. This new curriculum took us 3 years to implement. And this is just some data about number of indebted graduates. And really, I just draw your attention to the chart on the right. We're in the red. National, all the privates are shown in national. And what's really good to see is that we keep making progress and reducing the debt of our students. What about research? What's happening with us? Well, here's some amazing news. On the left, you see NIH funding coming to WashU Medicine has gone up 56% from FY16 to FY23. And yes, in 2023, we hit number 2. So $583 million is the most that WashU has ever competed for. And you can see down below that we went from 2016 at 374, so 210 million. We've really had a massive expansion of our competitiveness as a research. And I want to emphasize when we look at this metric, this is not an outcome. This is a measure of how competitive we are. The outcome we want is great research and advancing knowledge and new treatments from our research and improvement in the way that we take care of patients. But this metric is a very healthy and positive metric. Here's where we were in 2016 at number 5, and then where we are in 2023 at number 2. And then this, looking back at this, we see, if you look in the upper left, you can see that that's the total funding. In the upper right, number of awarded PIs. And what's wonderful for me about seeing 153 new PIs is that when we started our strategic plan back in 2017 to expand our research community, we said that if we recruited another 150 to 160 PIs, we would be number 2. And I don't know how that actually happened. you can see number of awards has gone up, the number of awards to the PIs, and average funding per PI. And one of the things that many of you will know or may not know is that in this time period, we were able to renegotiate our F&A rate. So we went from approximately 51% F&A rate to a 58%. So we should be getting more funding per award, but this is also a very positive metric. And here, if you look at the departments, we have 6 departments that are within the top 3. We have a total of 15 of the 19 departments. So we have 21 departments, but 2 of them, there are no, you can't get data. This data comes from, gosh, I'm blocking on it right now. Blue Ridge, from Blue Ridge. And Blue Ridge doesn't do 2 of the departments. So 15 of the 19 departments are in the top 15. This is incredible balance. This is something you don't see at most of the medical schools. And then here, I wanted to say something about all of the people who got their first R1 this year, because this is the milestone that we all look at as our big milestone. And I want to read off the list of the 31 people who competed successfully. Craig Buckman, William Busher, Anil Kashikar, Daniel Castro, Teo Chow, Brian Kopitz, Brian Fuller, Aditi Gupta, Gabriel Haller, Michael Harris, Alexei Kravitz, Harish Kulkarni, Eric Lansness, Fuhai Lee, Tristan Lee, Shoei Lee, Brendan Lucy, Vivia McCutcheon, Kerry Morgan, Philip Mudd, Matt Much, Hadass Naman Averbach, Stephen Pack, Sid Param, David Rosen, Dmitry Samovsky, Kristen Sanfilippo, Amber Stratman, Diana Whalen, Kristen Zemlin, and Jin Zhang. I hope many of you are here. Let's have a round of applause. This is a big deal, and it means we are also succeeding with our faculty coming up from the junior. I could go on and on about many, many, many publications that have occurred this year, and one of the unique and wonderful things about being with you in my position is I get to see these things 3, 4, 5 times a week. Amazing accomplishments. And so I'm just picking a couple. This is a paper from Arpana Agrawal in the Department of Psychiatry using genomics. And this is, to me, it's the dream of the personalized medicine paradigm. Shows a signal in people who have different kinds of substance abuse problems, including nicotine, alcohol, opioids, and cannabis. And the signal that's common there is actually a gene variant that has a drug, that is a target of a drug, a known drug. And what do I mean by the dream? Therefore, could we use that drug to prevent substance abuse in a broad way? Incredible result. This is a paper that came from an incredible trio of investigators this year, led by Dave Holtzman, using his animal model of Alzheimer's disease, with contributions by Jeff Gordon in the microbiome and Yoni Kipnis in the understanding of the immune connections to the brain, and really robust support for the idea that the microbiome and its metabolic products have an impact on the progression of Alzheimer's disease. And then this is a paper that came from Ina Klashevsky in the Department of Pathology and Immunology that described CD5 expression by dendritic cells and established the idea that CD5 positive cells were potential targets for improving immunotherapy. Amazing amazing series of experiments. I want to say a few words about commercialization. And this is a new thing for me to talk about. I believe that WashU Medicine has to go from a place that brags about NIH funding, brags about incredible research accomplishments, to a place that also gets those things to the market, gets those things to be able to be to the final stages in which we get to our dream of improving health. And commercialization is a part of that. And this commercialization campaign depends on us partnering with industry. So what are we doing about trying to evolve into being more impactful through commercialization? And here are some of the things that we've done in the last few years. We've strengthened the services provided by the Office of Tech Management. We increased the budget of the OTM. We actually tripled it using some funding that came from the medical school and also some funding that was in the CFU. We, in 2017, established the Drug Discovery Center, and we continue to invest in that. And I see many more of our faculty using the DDC. We launched the Needleman program. This was a $15 million gift, and the school matched 10 million of it, and this is for more major funding of projects that are closer to being potential for licensing of technology or new entity formation. We have continued on our campaign to establish broad institutional partnerships with pharmaceutical companies and investment firms, and next week you're going to hear, or 2 weeks from now, you're going to hear the more formal announcement of our partnership with Deerfield Management, and Deerfield is putting $130 million into projects here that they will select, which have the potential for commercialization. And then a big thing in the revision of the promotion criteria is that we want to be able to recognize accomplishments of entrepreneurs in a way that we haven't in the past. We launched our first company in the past year. This is a partnership with BJC that commercializes our clinical data. It's called CuraMeta. And this is an important journey for us. It will also actually generate more capital for the medical school. We established our Biopharma Advisory Committee. This is a really impressive group. They love coming here, and they've been coming here now over the last 2 years, and they want to get involved even more in some of the things that are going on in our labs. We created the inaugural Vice Chair for Innovation, and we're going to go to the second generation of that. We facilitated the establishment of Gates Ag 1 and Cortex, and this, we hope, will lead to more attracting of more organizations interested in that area. And we continue to provide funding to BioSTL to stimulate startup company formation in the St. Louis community. There are many, 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 many other things I could say about our faculty. I'm just going to mention a few things, and they're at the very highest level. We had a great year this year with 3 of our favorite faculty being elected to the National Academy of Medicine, Michael, Sarah, and Tim. We had 2 of our faculty elected to the National Academy of Inventors, Jim Janetka and David Curiel. We had 8 faculty elected to the American Society for Clinical Investigation. That's fantastic. And all of you know the Young Turks is the beginning of our journey as physician scientists. This is an incredibly talented group. They come from multiple departments. We had 2 wonderful members of our faculty, Scott and Leela, elected to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. And then we had a bunch of awards, and I can only mention a few. Ann Fagan, Tim Miller, and Randy Bateman were both recognized for their work in neurodegenerative diseases. Bob Schreiber was recognized by the New York Academy of Science. And Jeff Gordon continues to win. And this year, he already started 2024 with the Nemers Prize in Medical Science, and we're hoping for even more. And this year we also remember Bill Peck, and I felt very fortunate to be able to have him mentor me for a few years. And I think many of you will remember Bill played a huge role in the modernization of this medical school, including the cancer center. The faculty practice was something that developed when he started. And then I always said to him, when he left as dean, the medical school was at number 2 in NIH funding. And I wish he were around today for me to be able to say we're back at number 2. So who do we need to make sure to thank? First, I want to thank BJC Healthcare. It's really, really hard to be in the healthcare business these days. And every day it gets more and more challenging. And we're so lucky to be able to work with BJC. Even though every day we have new challenges, we're moving in a positive direction. Our department heads. This group is the best department heads in the world. And we continue to have great candidates in all of our department head searches because these people are doing such a fantastic job, and it is my unbelievable privilege to get to work with them every day. We also, at that level, have great directors for physical therapy, occupational therapy, our ICTS, our Institute for Informatics, and our Cancer Center. This is the vice chancellors and deans that I work with every day, and this is just an unbelievably productive team, incredibly fun team to work with. Eva, Greg, Mark, Paul, Renee, Rick, and Cherie have been fantastic. We work very closely with our offices from the university that are dedicated to the medical school, very important government affairs, advancement, general counsel, IT. And then I want to thank all of our colleagues in leadership at the university that make it possible for us to continue to make the advances that we're making. And then this is my group who run around every day, and they manage to keep all the trains running on time. Thanks, Chris, for everything that you do, and Debbie, who works closely with me. And then I want to thank every single one of our faculty and staff, and it's really important for me to mention the staff. As we grow our faculty, we grow our staff. That's new jobs for lots of people in the local economy. And we have great staff who put on a great show every single day. You are deeply appreciated. It's been just a fantastic year. Thank you all for everything that you do.